Megan Carter owned a small hair salon in Savannah, Georgia. People around town always talked about it because there were no mirrors inside. Clients thought it was strange, but Megan just smiled and said softly, "Mirrors don't show everything." What they didn't know was that the mirrors once showed her something she could never forget. A few years ago, life was completely different. Megan ran the salon with her husband, Daniel. They had built it together from nothing, and for a while, it felt like their dream had finally come true. Daniel handled the business side while Megan took care of clients. Everyone said they were the perfect team. Megan's best friend, Rachel, helped part-time, and Megan trusted her like a sister. But small things started to feel wrong. Daniel stayed late at the salon more often, saying he was catching up on work. Rachel always seemed to be there too, offering to help. They shared little jokes and quick glances that made Megan uncomfortable, but she told herself she was imagining things. She loved them both too much to doubt them. One night, while cleaning up after everyone left, Megan noticed a lipstick mark on the back of a mirror in Daniel's office. It was Rachel's shade. Her stomach twisted, but she didn't say a word. Instead, she watched closely. She replaced one of the decorative mirrors with a small hidden one that gave her a view into the office. A few evenings later, she saw the truth. Through the reflection, Megan saw Daniel and Rachel together, laughing, touching, kissing. Her heart broke in silence. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just stood there, watching her husband and best friend betray her in the place she built with her own hands. After that, she couldn't look at either of them the same. But she kept quiet, pretending not to know. When Daniel said the salon wasn't making enough money and suggested selling it, Megan realized they planned to take it all from her. That was when her heartbreak turned into cold, steady anger. She invited them both to a closing party. She told them she was ready to move on and wanted to celebrate before signing the papers. They laughed and drank, thinking they had won. Then Megan asked them to take a photo together in front of the mirror wall. As they posed, she flipped a switch. The lights changed, and behind their smiling faces appeared the words she had carved onto the back of the glass: "You took everything from me, but I see you now." Neither of them spoke. Megan looked at them once, then swung a brush handle and shattered the mirror. The sound echoed through the room. She didn't yell or cry, she just walked out, leaving them standing among the broken glass. From that day on, Megan removed every mirror in the salon. She didn't need them anymore. The people who came in never knew why, but Megan did. She had already seen enough reflections for a lifetime. Daniel kept acting normal after the night Megan shattered the mirror, but deep down, he knew she had found out everything. Megan didn't speak to him much. She moved quietly around the salon, finishing her client's hair, smiling just enough to keep things peaceful. Inside, she felt cold. Rachel never came back after that night. Word around town spread that she had quit suddenly, but no one knew the real reason. Daniel tried to convince Megan to still sell the salon. He said it was for their future, but she didn't argue anymore. She just nodded and let him think she agreed. What he didn't know was that she had already gone through the books and found what he had been hiding: money missing from their business account. He had been taking cash for months, slowly draining her dream. She made copies of every record and called her lawyer quietly. The day Daniel thought he was going to finalize the sale, he walked into the salon looking confident. Megan was standing by the door with her lawyer beside her. She handed Daniel a folder full of papers showing his fake transactions. His face went pale. She told him she was filing charges and that the salon was hers alone now. Daniel tried to talk his way out of it, saying it was just a mistake, but Megan didn't even look at him. She told him to leave. That was the last time he stepped into her salon. Weeks passed, and Megan worked harder than ever. She changed the name of the shop and redecorated it completely. She removed the rest of the mirrors, replacing them with warm lights, soft colors, and plants. Clients said it felt peaceful, different from other places. Many told her they liked not seeing their reflection, it helped them relax. Megan would smile and say, "Sometimes beauty isn't something you can see." Rachel tried to reach out once, leaving a note at the door. Megan read it, then threw it away. She didn't need explanations. She had already made peace with the truth. Daniel faced legal trouble for what he did, and Megan finally had control over everything she built. Even though she had every reason to hate them, Megan didn't carry anger anymore. The silence of the salon comforted her. She learned to find calm in her own company. When people asked why she had no mirrors, she'd simply say, because we don't need them to feel beautiful. Most didn't understand, but that was fine with her. At night, when she closed the salon, she would sometimes catch her faint reflection in the glass door. She would pause, take a breath, and walk away. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was hers again. She didn't need to see her reflection to know who she was anymore. She finally saw herself clearly without a mirror. Megan woke up early the next morning, feeling the heavy silence in her house. Daniel hadn't come home after she told him to leave. She didn't care anymore. The betrayal had already taken everything from her, and now she just wanted peace. She went to the salon alone, opened the doors, and looked around. The place felt different without him there. It was quiet, calm, and finally hers. She took a deep breath and got to work, sweeping the floor and rearranging things. Clients began coming in again, curious to see if the rumors were true. They noticed there were no mirrors, but they liked how comfortable the space felt. Megan treated everyone kindly, focusing on giving them a good experience. She didn't talk much about her past. If anyone asked about Daniel, she just said, "He's not part of this anymore." That was all. Day by day, business started to grow again. People came not just for haircuts, but for the peace they felt inside her salon. Megan listened to their stories, their worries, and their laughter. She realized her job wasn't just about styling hair, it was about helping people feel human again. The mirrorless idea became her new way of healing herself and others. Sometimes, when she was closing late, she'd sit in the middle of the salon and stare at the empty walls where the mirrors used to hang. She remembered how she once believed those mirrors showed truth and beauty. Now she knew better. They had only reflected what people wanted to see. The real truth was inside her, not in glass. Rachel had completely disappeared from town. Megan heard she had moved to another state to start over. Daniel's case dragged on for a while, but she didn't follow it closely. She didn't need revenge anymore. She had already taken her power back by surviving and rebuilding. That was enough. One evening, an elderly woman came in for a haircut and said softly, "I like it here. No mirrors to remind me how old I've gotten." Megan smiled and replied, "Sometimes it's nice to just feel good instead of trying to look perfect." The woman nodded, and for the first time in a long while, Megan felt warmth in her heart. Months passed, and her salon became known for its unusual but comforting atmosphere. Some people drove from nearby towns just to experience it. Megan stayed humble, grateful that her pain had turned into something meaningful. She never replaced the mirrors. She didn't need to. The light, the laughter, and the quiet confidence of her clients filled the space better than any reflection ever could. When she looked at her life now, she saw peace instead of pain. She had lost everything once, but in that loss, she found something more, herself. The months went by quietly, and Megan finally started to feel like her life was steady again. She opened the salon early every morning, turned on the soft lights, and played gentle music while preparing for clients. She didn't think about Daniel or Rachel anymore. They were just names that belonged to another time. Now, she focused on what mattered: her work, her peace, and the people who trusted her. Her business was doing better than ever. Word spread that her salon had no mirrors, yet everyone who came left smiling. Clients said it made them feel lighter, more relaxed. They didn't have to worry about how they looked while Megan worked on them. They could just enjoy the moment. Some said it felt like therapy, and Megan quietly agreed. She knew the feeling of needing to heal from what couldn't be seen. She hired 2 new stylists, both kind and respectful, who didn't ask too many questions. They admired her strength and loved the calm atmosphere she had built. Together, they created a space full of warmth. Megan treated her employees well, teaching them that kindness was more important than appearances. Her salon became a small community, a place where people came not just to look good but to feel understood. Sometimes she still thought about what happened, especially when she walked past the back room where everything had once fallen apart. The memory didn't hurt as much now. It felt distant, like a story that happened to someone else. She didn't regret destroying the mirror. It had been a turning point, the moment she took her life back. One afternoon, while cleaning up, she found a small piece of broken mirror hidden behind a cabinet. The edge caught the light, and she picked it up carefully. She looked at her reflection, just her eyes, and for a brief second she felt the old pain return. But then she smiled. She placed the shard into a box and locked it away, deciding to keep it as a reminder that she had survived. Megan also started spending more time outside the salon. She took walks by the river after work, enjoying the quiet evenings. The water's reflection was soft and calm, nothing like the cold glass of the past. It made her realize that some reflections are natural and kind, they don't judge or lie. She liked that. As the seasons changed, her life grew simpler. She no longer needed approval, love, or validation from anyone. The betrayal that once broke her heart had pushed her to rebuild herself from nothing, and now she was stronger than ever. When people complimented her success, she only said, "It took me a while to see things clearly." Every night before locking up, Megan turned off the lights and looked around her salon. No mirrors, no ghosts from the past, just peace. That was enough. Megan's salon had become a quiet success. People came not just for haircuts but for the calm feeling they found there. She greeted everyone with a gentle smile and treated each person with kindness. The atmosphere was peaceful, filled with soft music and warm lights. No one asked about the mirrors anymore, they just accepted that this was how her place worked. Megan liked it, that way. It was her world now, simple and free of the pain she once carried. One rainy afternoon, a new client walked in. She was a middle-aged woman named Linda who looked nervous. As Megan worked on her hair, Linda started talking about her marriage falling apart and how she didn't recognize herself anymore. Megan listened quietly, nodding, saying only a few words. When Linda was done, she smiled softly and said, "I feel lighter, like I can breathe again." Megan told her, "That's what happens when you stop looking for yourself in a reflection." Linda thanked her and left, leaving a small tip and a kind note. Moments like that reminded Megan why she kept going. She no longer cared about money or status. Her happiness came from helping people feel whole again. Every time she finished with a client, she felt a bit of her own heart heal too. Daniel tried reaching out once through a lawyer, asking to discuss the past, but Megan refused. There was nothing to talk about. She had already moved on. Rachel never appeared again, and the silence from both of them was something Megan welcomed. She didn't need apologies. Time and distance were enough. On weekends, Megan started teaching small beauty classes for young girls in the neighborhood. She wanted them to learn that real beauty wasn't about appearance. She talked to them about confidence, respect, and kindness. The girls laughed, asked questions, and loved being there. Watching them grow made Megan proud. She had turned her pain into something useful, something that gave others hope. Sometimes, when she walked home after closing, she'd pass by other salons full of bright mirrors and people checking themselves from every angle. It used to make her sad, but now she just smiled. She understood that everyone's reflection told a different story, and hers was finally a peaceful one. She lived alone in a small house not far from the salon. In her living room, she kept plants, soft lighting, and one small photo of her parents. No mirrors hung on the walls. She didn't miss them. The quietness of her home felt like safety. Each morning, she woke early, brewed her coffee, and stepped outside to watch the sunrise. She didn't see her reflection in the glass door, she saw light spreading across the sky. That was enough to remind her that new beginnings were real. Her story wasn't about loss anymore, it was about finding strength where everything once broke. The days at the salon moved peacefully now. Megan worked with steady hands and a calm heart. Her two employees had become like family to her. They respected the space she built and never asked about the past. Together, they ran the salon smoothly, welcoming clients who came for more than just haircuts. People often said it felt like stepping into a different world, one where they could forget their worries. That feeling made Megan proud. One evening, as the shop was closing, a young woman named Emily walked in, looking embarrassed for coming so late. She said she had just moved to town and desperately needed a haircut before a new job interview. Megan smiled and told her to sit down. As she worked, Emily opened up about how she'd been through a hard breakup and didn't feel confident anymore. Megan listened quietly. When she finished cutting her hair, she said, "You don't need a mirror to know you look good. You'll do great." Emily smiled, her eyes bright with relief. That night reminded Megan how healing simple words could be. Business grew more each month. People came from nearby towns, curious about the mirrorless salon. They left with soft smiles and lighter hearts. Some even told Megan they started to like themselves more because they learned to focus on how they felt, not how they looked. Every time she heard that, it touched her deeply. Megan also began helping a few women who wanted to start their own small salons. She shared advice, taught them about customer care, and explained how kindness could be stronger than fancy decorations. She didn't talk about her past, she just wanted to pass on what she had learned through pain. Watching others succeed made her feel like her story had a purpose. One morning, a letter arrived with no return address. Megan hesitated before opening it. Inside was a simple note that said, "I'm sorry for everything." There was no name, but she knew it was from Rachel. She stood quietly for a moment, then folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. She didn't feel anger or sadness, just peace. She had already forgiven them in her own way by choosing to live freely. As time went on, Megan realized she didn't think about the past much anymore. Her mind stayed focused on the present, the laughter of clients, the hum of hairdryers, the smell of coffee in the mornings. Life had become simple again, and she liked it that way. At the end of each day, she locked up, turned off the lights, and stood for a second, feeling the soft warmth of her salon. No mirrors reflected her, but she didn't need one. She could feel her own peace in the quiet air around her. It was enough. Megan's life slowly settled into a calm rhythm. The salon was always full of quiet laughter, the hum of dryers, and soft music that floated through the air. She didn't think much about her past anymore. The people who came in trusted her, and she made sure they left feeling cared for. Every morning she opened the doors with a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. It felt good to finally live without fear or anger. One day, a man came into the salon asking for a trim. He introduced himself as Mark, a local carpenter who had just moved into the neighborhood. He was friendly and polite, not overly talkative, and Megan liked that. As she cut his hair, they chatted about small things, the weather, the town, the best places for coffee. There was no tension, no hidden pain. It was just a normal conversation, and somehow that felt new to her. Mark became a regular client. He sometimes stopped by to fix small things in the salon without being asked. He repaired a loose door hinge, replaced a broken chair leg, and built new shelves. Megan appreciated his help, though she never let it turn into anything more than friendship. She wasn't ready for that, and Mark seemed to understand. Over time, her staff noticed that Megan smiled more. She laughed sometimes, something she hadn't done much in the past. She started baking cookies for the shop on weekends and bringing flowers to decorate the tables. The salon became warmer, not just in looks but in spirit. Clients could feel it too. Many told her it was their favorite place to relax. One afternoon, after the last client left, Mark stopped by with a small wooden box he had made. "For you," he said. Inside was a tiny carved heart and a note that read, "For someone who found strength in silence." Megan felt a soft ache in her chest but smiled. It wasn't romantic, it was thoughtful, a simple act of kindness. She thanked him and placed the box on the counter. That night, she sat in the quiet salon and looked around. The empty chairs, the soft lights, and the gentle scent of shampoo filled the air. For a moment, she imagined how far she had come, from heartbreak and betrayal to this peaceful life she built on her own. She no longer needed revenge or apologies. She had already won by letting go. Before locking up, she walked to the front window and looked outside. Her reflection appeared faintly in the glass, surrounded by the glow of the streetlights. It was blurry, almost like a shadow, but it was enough. She didn't turn away. This time, she smiled at her reflection, whispered a quiet, "Thank you," and switched off the lights. The night outside was calm, and for the first time in a long while, so was she. Megan's days had grown peaceful and predictable. She woke up early, opened the salon, brewed coffee, and turned on the soft lights. The air always smelled faintly of lavender and hair products. Her 2 employees arrived soon after, chatting cheerfully as they set up their stations. Business was steady, and clients came in every day, drawn to the calm energy of the place. Megan had built a life that finally felt safe. Sometimes new customers would walk in, surprised to see there were no mirrors. Most of them asked about it at first, but Megan only smiled and said, "You don't need one to look beautiful." They often laughed, but by the time they left, they always said the same thing, that they felt lighter and calmer. The mirrorless idea had become her salon's quiet secret. People said it made them see themselves differently, and Megan liked that. She started keeping a small notebook near the counter. Whenever clients shared something kind or personal, she wrote it down. It reminded her how far she had come, and how much kindness still existed in the world. Reading those little notes at night made her heart feel full. Mark still came by from time to time. He fixed things around the salon and helped her move heavy boxes. Their friendship stayed simple and steady. They talked about work, music, and everyday life. Sometimes they shared coffee on the front steps before opening. It was nice having someone around who didn't expect anything from her. One evening, after closing, Megan was sweeping the floor when she noticed a young girl standing outside the window, staring in. The girl looked about 12, her hair messy, her eyes curious. Megan opened the door and asked if she was lost. The girl said softly that she was waiting for her mother, who was at the shop next door. Megan invited her to sit inside. As they talked, the girl asked why there were no mirrors. Megan thought for a moment, then said, because sometimes it's better to feel pretty than to see it. The girl nodded like she understood, and before leaving, she smiled and said, I like that. After the girl left, Megan stood in the quiet room and felt something warm in her chest. She realized that her salon had become more than a business, it was a place where people could just be themselves without judgment. It was the opposite of what her life used to be. That thought brought her peace. Later that night, she closed the curtains, turned off the lights, and sat for a moment in the dark. The silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt alive, almost comforting. She didn't need mirrors, revenge, or answers. She had peace, and that was more than enough. As she locked the door and stepped into the cool night air, she smiled softly, knowing she had finally built the life she deserved. The weeks passed quietly, and the rhythm of Megan's days stayed gentle. The salon had become a second home, not just for her but for everyone who walked through its doors. People came in tired or stressed, but they always left smiling. Megan noticed that her clients started talking more about how they felt instead of how they looked. That was exactly what she had hoped for. She didn't need mirrors to remind anyone of their worth. Every morning she arrived before the sun rose, opened the blinds, and let the soft light spill inside. She brewed coffee and watered the plants near the windows. The smell of shampoo and fresh flowers mixed in the air. Her employees greeted her warmly, and they worked side by side with an easy rhythm. There was laughter, quiet chatter, and the hum of hairdryers. It was peaceful in a way Megan had once thought she'd never feel again. Sometimes, during breaks, she sat by the window with her notebook. She still wrote down things clients said that made her smile, kind words, small confessions, pieces of advice. Those pages had become her reminder that life, no matter how broken it once felt, could still be beautiful. One afternoon, an old woman named Joyce came in. Her hair was thin and gray, and she moved slowly with a cane. As Megan worked, Joyce said softly, I don't look like I used to. Megan replied, none of us do, but that's not a bad thing. Joyce smiled at her reflection in the window and said, you're right. I can feel beautiful even without seeing it. That moment stayed with Megan long after Joyce left. The seasons began to change again. The leaves outside turned orange and gold. Megan often stepped out at closing time just to watch the sunset. The colors reminded her of how far she had come, from heartbreak and loss to peace and purpose. She didn't think about Daniel or Rachel anymore. They had faded from her life completely, like shadows in the distance. Her friendship with Mark continued quietly. He still stopped by sometimes, bringing small things he made from wood, picture frames, boxes, and once, a tiny bird carved by hand. Megan placed them around the salon as decorations. The clients loved them, saying they made the place feel warm and welcoming. At night, when the shop was empty, Megan sometimes sat in the stillness and listened to the soft hum of the city outside. She didn't feel lonely anymore. She had found comfort in her own company. Before leaving each night, she would look around the salon one last time. The soft lights reflected off the windows, and in that faint reflection, she saw herself smiling, not out of pride, but peace. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was honest, calm, and hers alone. That was enough. The air outside had turned cool, and the days were shorter now. Megan liked how the mornings felt calm and the evenings carried a soft chill. Life had settled into something steady, something real. The salon ran smoothly every day. Her 2 employees knew exactly what to do, and the clients who came in treated the space with quiet respect. People often said the place felt like a small piece of peace in a noisy world. Megan didn't say much when they told her that. She just smiled, knowing they were right. One morning, she arrived early, unlocking the front door while the sky was still pink. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. She stood by the window and watched the sun rise. For a moment, she thought about everything that had happened, how her life once fell apart, how she rebuilt it alone, and how that pain had shaped her into the person she was now. But there was no sadness anymore. Just understanding. Later that day, a regular client named Laura came in. She had been coming for months, always sharing little parts of her life with Megan. As Megan worked on her hair, Laura said softly, "I've been through so much lately, but every time I come here, I feel lighter. I don't know what it is about this place." Megan smiled and said, "Maybe it's because you don't have to look for yourself in a mirror." Laura laughed gently and said, "Maybe you're right." After the client left, Megan sat for a moment, looking around the salon. The walls were warm and inviting. The plants thrived near the windows. The shelves were lined neatly with products and small wooden decorations Mark had made. Everything about the room reflected peace without needing a single mirror. She thought about how strange it was that what once broke her had led her to this life. Losing everything had been the start of something better. She no longer wanted to erase the past. It was a part of her, a lesson she carried quietly in her heart. In the evenings, she still stayed after closing sometimes, sitting with a cup of tea in her hands. She liked the silence after a long day. Through the front window, she could see the soft glow of streetlights. Her reflection appeared faintly in the glass, older now, but calm. She didn't turn away. She didn't flinch. She looked at herself and felt peace. When it was time to leave, she locked up, turned off the lights, and whispered a small thank you to the empty room. Not to anyone in particular, just to life itself. She had found her way through pain, betrayal, and silence, and now she had something stronger than before, clarity. She didn't need mirrors anymore. She could finally see herself clearly in the life she built with her own hands.